Stanley, what you doing? Barback!
Stop playing, get back, Barback, for real.
Come on, what are you doing?
No shade, no water. Just a shovel, a burning sun overhead, and a group of teenage boys digging enormous holes into cracked, lifeless earth while armed guards watch their every move. One boy suddenly stops digging. He spotted a rattlesnake coiled just a few feet away. And here's the part that'll make your stomach drop. Instead of backing away, he slowly walks toward it. He bends down, he removes his shoes, and he just waits. Because at this point, he's so broken, so exhausted, so utterly destroyed by this place that a venomous snake doesn't even scare him anymore. That image alone should tell you everything you need to know about holes. This isn't just some quirky kid's movie. This is a story about generational curses, stolen destinies, buried secrets, and two boys who accidentally stumble into saving each other's lives. It's clever, it's heartbreaking, it's wildly underrated. And if you've never seen it, or if you have but forgot how insanely layered this story actually is, you are in exactly the right place. Somewhere in a crowded American city, a teenager named Stanley Yilnats walking home from school, minding his own business, probably thinking about what's for dinner. Stanley isn't particularly lucky. Actually, that's a massive understatement. His whole family has been haunted by terrible luck for generations. Bad things just happen to the Yilnats family with suspicious consistency. His dad is a struggling inventor who has spent years trying to crack the code on a cure for foot odor, unsuccessfully, of course. They're broke. Their apartment is cramped, and life just never seems to cooperate, but nothing in Stanley's history of bad luck could have prepared him for what happens next. Out of nowhere, something falls from the sky and hits him square on the head. A pair of sneakers, not just any sneakers. These belong to Clyde Livingston, a famous baseball player whose shoes were donated to a charity auction for homeless children. They went missing from the auction, and now, somehow, they've landed directly on top of an awkward teenager who was just trying to get home. Stanley's first instinct? Take them home. Famous athlete shoes could help his dad's foot odor experiments. He never even makes it through the front door. Police swarm him before he can explain. And when they follow him upstairs and see the apartment covered in old shoes from his father's research, it looks like the crime scene of a very specific kind of thief. Nobody believes the shoes fell from the sky. Honestly, can you blame them? At trial, the judge offers Stanley two options.
Camp Green Lake or jail.
Stanley has never been to a summer camp. He imagines a lake, canoes maybe, fresh air. He picks Camp Green Lake. This is, without question, the worst decision of his life. On the long bus ride through the desert, Stanley thinks about the story his family has told for generations, the story of how the Yilnats curse began. It goes back to his great-great-grandfather, Elya Yilnats, a young man in Eastern Europe desperate to win the hand of a girl named Myra Monkey. He visited a fortune teller named Madame Zeroni, who gave him a piglet and instructions. Carry it up a mountain every day while singing a lullaby to it, and as the pig grew heavier, Elya would grow stronger. The deal had one condition. After it was done, he had to come back and carry Madame Zeroni herself up that same mountain, singing the same song. If he broke that promise, his entire family line would be cursed with unending misfortune. Elya followed through. He got stronger. He showed up for Myra's hand with an impressive, fully grown pig. And then Myra, the girl he'd worked so hard for, treated her own marriage. Decision like a coin flip. She couldn't choose. Devastated, Elya left for America and never looked back. And in his heartbreak, he completely forgot about Madame Zeroni. The curse began that day. 4 generations later, a pair of shoes falls from the sky and lands on a teenage boy in the wrong place at the wrong time. The bus rolls to a stop. Stanley looks out the window. There is no lake. What stretches out in every direction is a vast wasteland of cracked earth, brutal heat, and most strikingly, hundreds of enormous holes dug into the ground as far as the eye can see. This place looks less like a summer camp and more like the surface of an alien planet. A man named Mr. Sir greets him with the energy of someone who genuinely dislikes children. He hands Stanley a shovel and explains the rules simply. No fences. No guard towers, because they don't need them. The desert itself is the prison. Anyone who runs dies from dehydration long before reaching civilization. You want to run, he says with a cold smile? Go ahead. Nobody's stopping you. Then comes the only rule that matters. Every boy digs 1 hole per day, exactly 5 feet deep, exactly 5 feet wide. Builds character, apparently. Stanley notices how tense the supervisors get whenever they mention finding something unusual while digging. He files that away. Stanley's tent holds 6 other boys, and the first thing he learns is that nobody uses real names at Camp Green Lake. There's X-Ray, the sharp-eyed unofficial leader, Armpit, Squid, Zigzag, Magnet, and then the quiet one, the boy who barely speaks, barely looks up, barely seems to exist. They call him Zero. That first night at dinner, X-Ray takes part of Stanley's food and explains that new kids who haven't dug holes yet don't deserve full meals. Stanley is too exhausted to fight it, but then something unexpected happens. When the boys ask about his crime and Stanley mentions Clyde Livingston's sneakers, Zero, silent, invisible Zero, suddenly speaks up and asks,
Did they have red X's on them?
You got Zero to talk. And what else can you do, Zero?
Nobody can figure out how Zero would know that. He says nothing else, goes back to silence. But the question stays with Stanley, pressing against something he can't quite name. While Stanley slowly adjusts to the brutal routine of digging, the story begins pulling us backward in time. Long before the desert consumed everything, Green Lake was a real, thriving community. A man named Sam visited regularly with his donkey cart full of onions he claimed could cure almost any ailment. The town loved him, and so did the local schoolteacher, Catherine Barlow. She traded peach preserves for his onions. He brought her quiet, genuine warmth. Something real grew between them. But a wealthy, self-important man named Charles Walker also wanted Catherine, and he was the kind of man who wasn't used to being told no. When heavy rains damaged the school roof, Sam offered to repair it.
I can fix that.
The time they spent together made their feelings impossible to ignore. When the town found out, the reaction was violent. They burned the school. They killed Sam. Catherine Barlow watched it all happen, and something inside her shattered so completely it never came back together. Green Lake dried up shortly after, as if the land itself was grieving. Catherine disappeared into the desert. She emerged years later as Kissing Kate Barlow, a feared outlaw who robbed wealthy travelers across the desert for decades, leaving a lipstick kiss on every person she killed. One of her victims was Stanley's great-grandfather, whose treasure chest she stole before leaving him stranded. He survived by finding refuge at a mysterious mountain formation his family later called God's Thumb. But the treasure was never found. When Charles Walker and his wife finally tracked Kate down and demanded the location, she let a yellow-spotted lizard bite her and died laughing, taking the secret to her grave. The Walker family never stopped looking. Back in the present, Stanley's shovel hits something that doesn't feel like rock. He pulls out a small golden tube, ornate, engraved with 2 initials. KB. Before he can react, X-Ray materializes beside him and makes a quick proposal. Let him turn it in instead. Stanley, still new and trying to survive, agrees. When Pendanski sees the tube, he radios someone immediately.
We got something nice.
And within minutes, the camp warden arrives. A composed, quietly dangerous woman whose presence makes every adult in the camp suddenly stand straighter. The moment she sees the object, something lights up behind her eyes. She gives X-Ray the day off, the first day off any boy has ever received, and orders everyone else to dig up the entire surrounding area. The character-building story is dead. This camp has been searching for something specific, and Stanley's tube has brought them closer than they've been in years. They dig for days, find nothing else. The warden's excitement slowly fades, and the boys are sent back to their individual holes. But Stanley doesn't forget those initials. KB. One exhausted evening, Zero slides over to Stanley with a quiet request. He wants to learn how to read. He never did. Stanley's first instinct is no. He spent all day digging in the heat, but Zero offers something in return. He'll help Stanley dig part of his hole each morning, and since Zero is the fastest digger in the entire camp, this is a serious offer. The arrangement quietly begins. As the lessons continue, Zero eventually reveals his real name.
Hector Zeroni.
Stanley goes still. Zeroni? The same family name as Madame Zeroni, the woman his ancestor promised to carry up a mountain and forgot. The connection is too direct to be coincidence. Zero's mother disappeared when he was small, and since then he'd been living on the streets, invisible to the world. No family, no records, no one who noticed when he was sent to this place. What this camp has been doing to someone like him sits on Stanley's chest like something heavy. A bag of sunflower seeds goes missing from Mr. Sir's truck. When he returns and finds them scattered near Stanley's hole, Stanley looks guilty even though he isn't. Rather than let one of the others take the blame, he steps forward. Mr. Sir drags him to the warden's cabin. Inside, Stanley sees it for the first time, every wall covered in newspaper clippings and photographs of Kissing Kate Barlow. The warden sits painting her nails with a polish she mentions is mixed with rattlesnake venom. When Mr. Sir's interrupts to press the sunflower seed issue, she drags those nails across his face without blinking. 2 deep burning scratches. She turns back to Stanley, irritated he was brought here over something this small, and sends him back to work. When he returns, Zero has quietly finished his hole for him. The loyalty between these 2 boys becomes something real. The dam breaks one afternoon when the other boys figure out the hole digging arrangement, and Zigzag launches himself at Stanley in a fight. Stanley is losing badly. Then Zero, who has been controlled through everything, snaps. He jumps in to defend Stanley. The warden arrives. When the arrangement is exposed, Pendanski looks directly at Zero and says the cruelest thing anyone has said in this story out loud, that Zero is stupid, worthless, and that teaching him to read is a waste of time because there is nothing inside him worth educating. Zero stares at him for one long moment, then he grabs a shovel and swings it across Pendanski's face, and he runs into the desert. No shoes, no supplies, no plan, just away from this place. What happens next is worse than the act itself. The warden doesn't send anyone after him. Instead, she calmly instructs the adults to erase Zero's files from every record in the system. No family, no documentation. If his file disappears, he effectively never existed. Nobody will come looking for him, she says. Nobody ever does. A new boy arrives the next morning to take Zero's bed. Like it never happened. That night, Stanley lies awake thinking about his great-grandfather, the man who survived alone in the desert by finding a mountain shaped like a thumb pointing at the sky. God's thumb. The next day, while Mr. Sir is distracted, Stanley steals his truck. It's a terrible plan. He drives it straight into a hole and destroys it almost immediately, with Mr. Sir hanging off the side screaming. When it stalls, Stanley climbs out and runs into the desert. He runs after Zero. The warden tells Mr. Sir to wait 2 full weeks before reporting Stanley missing, because in 2 weeks there won't be anything left to find. Hours into the desert, dehydrated and fading, Stanley finds Hector Zeroni beneath the wreck of an old sunken boat, alive barely, surviving on century-old peach preserves he dug up from the sand. Jars buried out there by Sam and Catherine Barlow over 100 years ago, fermented now into something ancient and strange. They are literally eating history. Stanley looks at the horizon. Rising from the flat desert floor in the distance is a mountain shaped exactly like a thumb pointing straight at the sky. God's thumb. They're going there. The climb nearly kills them both. Halfway up, Zero collapses, dehydration and starvation finally winning. His eyes go blank. He goes down. Stanley doesn't hesitate. He bends down, gets Zero over his shoulder, and starts climbing. Step by agonizing step, Stanley Yelnats carries Hector Zeroni up a mountain, and as his muscles burn and his vision swims, something else happens. He begins to sing. An old family lullaby passed down through generations, the same song Elia Yelnats once sang to a pig on a different mountain long ago. The promise that was never kept, the debt-collecting misfortune across 4 generations is being paid now, not by the man who made it, by his descendant, not to Madame Zeroni herself. To her descendant, a boy carrying another boy, singing the song that was always meant to be sung. At the top, fresh water flowing through the rocks, wild onions growing all around it. Life, impossibly, at the summit of a dead desert mountain. The curse is broken. Neither of them knows it yet, but it is. Resting at the top, eating onions and drinking water, Zero finally tells Stanley the truth. He was the one who took Clyde Livingston's sneakers. He'd grabbed them from a shelter, not knowing what they were. When police chased him, he panicked and threw them off a bridge. Those shoes fell onto a stranger's head below. Zero waits for anger, for blame. Stanley is quiet, and then he's fine, because somehow, sitting on top of a desert mountain after everything they've been through together, it all makes a strange, cosmic kind of sense. These 2 boys, bound together by a century of broken promises and stolen treasure, were always going to find each other. They come back down with a plan. Stanley has been turning those initials over in his mind this whole time. KB Catherine Barlow. Kissing Kate Barlow, who robbed his great-grandfather and buried a chest somewhere in the desert near Green Lake. And he knows exactly which hole he found that tube in. They sneak back to camp under cover of night and start digging. Together, quietly, efficiently. 2 boys who've dug more holes than they can count. Metal hits metal. They haul up an old wooden chest just as lights sweep across the hole, the warden, Mr. Sir Pendansky, surrounding them. Then something else crawls out of the disturbed earth, yellow-spotted lizards, dozens of them, swarming into the hole with the boys. Stanley and Zero freeze completely still as the lizards crawl across their shoes and over the chest. Nobody can come down, not without dying. A standoff begins in the dark. The warden reveals everything in the long stretch of that awful night. Her grandfather was Charles Walker, the man who helped destroy Green Lake and spent his life searching for Kate's treasure. She grew up digging holes in this desert by hand as a child. Every holiday, every free moment, she has spent her entire life continuing a search that ruined everyone it ever touched. Dawn comes. The lizards still haven't bitten the boys, because, as it turns out, eating wild onions makes blood repellent to yellow-spotted lizards. All that time on God's thumb saved their lives. Morning brings cars, then more cars. Stanley's lawyer arrives with investigators and law enforcement. She'd never stopped being suspicious of this place. The warden quickly spins a story. The boys stole a chest from her property, but when the investigators open it, they find a name engraved on the inside of the lid, Stanley Yelnats. Not this Stanley. The first one, the great-grandfather whose treasure Kate Barlow stole in the desert a century ago. The chest was never the warden's. It was always the Yelnats family's. Then someone notices Zero's records are completely missing. That single detail begins unraveling everything. Mr. Sir is revealed as a criminal using a false identity. Pendansky has no legitimate credentials. The whole camp was a private treasure hunt disguised as rehabilitation, run on the backs of children. All 3 are arrested. And then, for the first time in living memory, rain begins falling over Green Lake. Real, heavy rain, soaking the cracked desert floor while every boy in the camp runs outside with their arms spread wide and their faces turned up to the sky. Stanley goes home, not empty-handed. The chest is authenticated and returned to the Yelnats family as its rightful owners. Among the contents are financial documents and stocks that have been compounding in value for over 100 years. Overnight, after generations of poverty and relentless bad luck, the Yelnats family is wealthy. Stanley splits everything equally with Hector Zeroni without a second of hesitation. The Yelnats family agrees immediately and officially welcomes Hector into their home. With his share, Hector does one thing first. He hires investigators to find his mother. She's found. The reunion happens quietly. almost off-screen, but the fact that it happens at all is enough to break something in your chest. Back at the apartment, Stanley's father finally cracks the foot odor formula. The invention works. The product becomes successful enough that Clyde Livingston himself, the baseball player whose stolen sneakers started every single thing in this story, appears in the commercials promoting it. The shoes that fell from the sky, the shoes Zero grabbed because he was hungry and alone. The shoes that condemned Stanley to a desert that turned out to hold everything he needed. Sometimes the thing that looks like the worst luck is exactly what needed to happen. Stanley and Hector are now neighbors. They spend time together the way boys who've carried each other up mountains do, easy, comfortable, with a friendship that doesn't need to explain itself. The Yelnats family laughs together without dread hanging over the room. And somewhere in a dry Texas basin, water begins collecting again. Everything finally connects. So what do you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing movie stories. See you in the next one.